Maybe you can relate to a situation where you've been working really hard to get something finished, pushing yourself, just trying to get to the end of it, because then it will be finished and then you can relax and then you can enjoy. I think in today's society, it's rare to find somebody who does not have that experience. So in today's sacred conversation, Jaco and I are going to look at that from an angle that I call missing the point. Because when we see somebody else attack life that way, and it really looks like we're attacking life and trying to get through to the end, and then it can feel like, wow, if we see somebody else behaving that way or putting so much pressure on themselves, we can see, wow, is this really what you should be doing right now? And it's easy to look at it from the outside. But from the inside, it can feel like a matter of life and death. And it can feel like if I don't stop now, everything will blow up. And that can feel so real that we can't get ourselves out of that situation. And sometimes it really feels that way. But what I mean with missing the point is that even if there is a harsh situation on our plate, it doesn't mean that we need to put ourselves out of the equation, but we actually need to get to a place where we are present in the situation instead of trying to get ourselves out of that battle. And there is a beautiful, beautiful story in the Bible that really relates to this, and in the Dutch Dutch podcast around kitchen table conversations with my pastor, we're going to talk about this. So I wanted to look at it a little bit today as well, and that is the story of Jacob who wrestles with God. Now, this is not a Bible podcast. It's not about the Bible, but the story is so relatable when it comes to missing the point, because just in a quick nutshell, Jacob betrays his brother to make sure that he gets the inheritance of his father. He then flees because his brother is threatening to kill him, and a lot more has been going on in the family. His brother is the opposite of him, and they hate each other. And ultimately, he gets the birthright of his father and then leaves to his uncle miles away from there. There he meets Rachel, then he's betrayed again into marrying Rachel's sister instead of Rachel. And then he works ultimately 21 years for his uncle, ends up with both of these girls, Leah and Rachel, and a few more wives, and he has built this beautiful family and wealth and 11 sons. But now it's time for him to go back and face the life that he left. And what happens in that facing of the life that he left is that his brother is coming out to meet him, and he's riding out to meet him, and that gives him the feeling, oh my goodness, I now need to face what I left behind. Am I ready to do that? And in his mind, his brother is still the brother that he left 21 years ago. In his mind, his brother is still the brother that was ready to kill him. And then he has a whole night where he's wrestling with somebody. Now, nobody knows what he's really wrestling with, of course, but at the end, it turns out that he has been wrestling with God, and he wins. And what I find extremely interesting, if we look at that from a place of our life and with what we are faced with in life, is that we can so easily see that we're trying to get our life on track so that we don't have to wrestle with the ghosts of the past, that we don't have to wrestle with the images that we think are going to attack us, with all the brothers that once said they were going to kill us. And he is telling himself in that night, I have to be clean in this conversation. I have to meet my brother with a clean conscience. I cannot undo what was done. I have to just ride into it with God on my side, knowing who I am, just be present in the situation without trying to battle what I think might be true. Now, if I look at missing the point in life, it's the exact same thing. So often we're trying to make this happen, because if we don't make it happen, then this will happen, and that will happen, and that will happen, and that will happen. Well, the point of life is, can we allow whatever is going to happen, and can we be present in it? But our mind is freaking out, saying, yeah, but then that will lead to certain death. And that will lead to me losing everything. And that will lead to me losing my life. And somehow there's comforting news, because we all will lose our life at the end. And missing the point is a big thing, because it has everything to do with who are you being while you're walking through life. So, Jaco, what are your thoughts around this?
It's a long story.
By the way,
long introduction.
I have my own version of Jacob sitting here right at the table, right? Jaco is officially called Jacob. So, Jacob,
Yeah.
how do you wrestle with God?
I wrestle with life and with God. But the interesting thing, when you started off, I saw a situation where I had a deadline. So often you have a deadline for something in your work, for example, and then you're late with everything, and everything which has to be done takes double the time that you planned for it, and things are going wrong, and people don't cooperate in a way that it's helpful. So the stress becomes more and more, and then you don't see people as people. You don't have any notice of your own behavior, and then it's really a fight. That's also a fight. And so when you started off to sketch this kind of situation, I thought, okay, then I'm totally out of myself. I'm not really aware of who I am and what I'm doing and what's meaning of all of this. So it's just external pressure that takes me over completely. And then the next day I have to apologize for all the things that I was rude and so.
What does it feel like in that moment? Because let's get something clear for somebody who doesn't know us. I work quite differently than Jaco does. I work completely aligned with. So if I have a deadline, I will think, okay, there is no way on earth that I can make this happen without God. So I connect with God and I think, okay, I don't know how to get through this. Help me.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm not there anymore. I'm just a machine who try to so a machine that should be working as efficient as possible to get things done. So I'm not there anymore.
It's interesting. So you need it.
But still, I'm not there. But there's still a lot of emotions.
So you leave your emotions to fix the problem.
It would be helpful if I'm empty anyway. I could.
If you could
leave
dissociate
out
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as much as we're laughing about it, it's interesting because in my mind, all I can think if I watch you, and of course we've been married for 19 years, but we've been together for 20 years. And if I watch you do that, all I can think is, but if you need something done, that needs a miracle, then why do you put so much stress on yourself that you should be able to do it? Because it's all about testing your abilities or something. And I think, well, if I am incapable of doing this, then let's not trust me. Let's trust a higher power. I don't know what that is. It's for sure not a man in the sky somewhere, but I need outside sources in order to do something like that. So I don't trust myself anymore, and you rely fully on yourself.
So that's really a miracle, because I'm brought up religiously and you aren't, and
that's interesting.
And it's the other way around when it comes to.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you went to church every week, and the Bible was read at every lunch.
Not that it came really alive, but
apparently it didn't.
Yeah.
So you were not taught that if you really needed God, He would be there for you.
Yeah, just mentally.
Okay.
But not
so it's
not
a concept.
Not embodied.
That is so interesting, because if God is not embodied, then what is He?
It's just a concept. Then. So
that makes it hard.
In hindsight, so
yeah.
And I lost my faith when I was 15 or 16 years old, so that wasn't helping any.
Well, and to a certain degree, was there real faith if it's not embodied? What is faith even if it is not embodied? So when we're let's get back to the topic and see how this is related, because it is.
So in the Netherlands we have a child. How do you call this? It's a tradition, and it's called Sinterklaas.
Yes.
And I think
it's kind of a Dutch Christmas, but then on the 5th of December, and it's all with gifts.
And there's a saint coming with all kind of gifts, and of course
he is there for the kids. So Sinterklaas is 5th of December, and it's a saint. And what he does is
it's comparable to Santa Claus.
Well, a little bit,
more or less,
a little bit. But he comes to bless the children. Yeah. Santa Claus doesn't just come for the children.
I think most religious children, so that are brought up religious, do have more faith in Sinterklaas than in God. Because the Sinterklaas is embodied more. It's real.
That's true. That's true. So at Sinterklaas, 2 weeks before the guy comes to this country, there's all these rituals of kids anticipating, and you will get gifts if you were on your best behavior. Basically, that's the story. I don't know how it's told today, because a lot has changed. He used to have a black helper, which is not approved of anymore, thank goodness. But there were a lot of things changed. So I don't know what it's like today, but when we were young, you would be fetched up by him and brought to Spain if you were on bad behavior. And if you had been on good behavior until that day, then it was a horrible fest. It was like, if you had been a good kid, then you would get a lot of presents. And if you would have been a bad kid, it would end horribly for you.
But it was more dependent on how much
like
money
Judgment Day.
your parents had.
Yeah, well, it was kind of
presents.
like Judgment Day. And this anticipation of...
There was a big book.
Big book. And if you were in the book, that was probably not a good thing.
No, you were always in the book, but it could be bad or...
And then he would sit there,
nice.
He would come to your house, and he would read in the book what kind of behavior you would have had, and if you would deserve punishment or beautiful gifts. It's horrible. And I think it has everything to do with parents trying to find an external source to be on their side, to help their kids to believe that they need to behave. Okay. Jaco, can you open the door, please? I'm sorry, guys. So there's a car coming, and Jimmy, I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but Jimmy, our dog, is starting to bark because Something outside is disturbing him. All right, so Jaco is coming back now. Jimmy is hearing about Sinterklaas, and he is now getting ready to bark at all the ghosts. So, the interesting thing is, when we're talking about missing the point here too, right? I believe in God, but I don't believe in God as a source that is there to take over or to control or to do everything for me. I believe it is a source that we can use and work together with, that has our full potential for us, and that if we live up to the image of what we ought to be and what we are able to be and who we are meant to be, then life will go easy and smooth. That means that either in trying to do it all by yourself, and I've done that in my life, that felt like proving my worthiness to God. But you don't have to prove your worthiness to God. There's unconditional love there. You are worthy. It's just, can you live up to the worthiness that you truly are? Which is where the English word ought is so beautiful. Now, if we're raising kids, or if we're trying to do a task, which is basically very similar, right? We're trying to make sure that this goes perfectly. And then we encounter that we're also human, and that we don't have all the answers, and that we might not know how to make something work. So then a guy like Sinterklaas is really helpful to look at, hey, you know what? It's not that I am asking you to do this, Sinterklaas will punish you. It's not that I know how life works, but Sinterklaas does. So if you just behave for him, then you'll be fine. But actually, that's missing the point too, because kids need grown-ups to show them how it works, and not to refer to some external source who will punish them if they don't, because what we're missing then is a reference point that we can look to what it even means when we talk about being at your best behavior. It's so interesting because for a grown-up, if we look at kids, we will very easily see those kids and we'll be like, yeah, just act normal. Behave. And a kid doesn't have a clue what you're talking about because they're trying to figure that out. And they're just looking around at the grown-ups and trying to figure it out. And the grown-ups are then referring to Sinterklaas. That's confusing.
Yeah, or
everybody would leave church at 15 if that was the case.
I don't think there's even the big distinction between Sinterklaas and saying act normal, because so apparently you have to know what Sinterklaas thinks is good.
Yes.
And also what's normal in society or in your family or in your school. Or
it's like you're born with these rules baked into you.
Yeah.
And you're not.
Yeah.
But then the game becomes that you're trying to figure them out, but you're punished for not knowing them yet.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to figure something out and you're constantly punished for not knowing it yet, then that will obviously lead to putting all that pressure on yourself.
Yeah. And
how can you trust God if all he's doing is punish you?
I think that's one of the biggest struggles in my life, is that I felt permission to explore whatever, anything in life. So I always thought I should have known this. And if I don't know how to act or react or respond, then I better not go there. So I keep myself back.
But this is interesting because I have that too. I always felt like I had to know all the answers, otherwise I needed to shut up and not even ask a question. I was only allowed to ask a question if I knew the answer. Now the interesting thing is, if there's real shit, I can rely on God. So I had this rule of, okay, yeah, I need to know everything and do everything Dad's way, and I really need to fully be on board with all of it and guess. But then if it is too difficult for me, I need to ask God, because otherwise there will be no way I'll be allowed back into the house even. So for me, for the biggest part of my life, I would say God was my secret helper that I could use, but I couldn't openly talk about it. So I only allowed God in the shit parts of my life. Hardly ever in the beautiful parts. Could you please open the door for the dog? Yeah. The dog is now in front of the door, barking because he fixed whatever it was that he wanted to fix. Just leave it open. And yes, there he is. Ooh, he brought his ball. That is nice. So now we have a dog with a ball in the house, and he is now trying to tell us that we are missing the point, because the point of life is to throw balls to the dog. But it's interesting. So all of us have these rules of the meaning of life and of what the point of life is. Oh, this is so interesting.
Yeah, but meaning of life in a way, how do I know how to respond to certain situations or to certain...
Yes.
That's another kind of meaning that we talk about as well. But just how to belong to your family or the system
and how to
you're in.
face it back. So if we look back at the story of Jacob, what really touches me there, and that's very personal, is that for the biggest part of my life, if something was too hard for me, I would move, which is what Jacob did, right? It was too hard, he left. It was too hard, he left. It was too hard, he decided to do something else, until he couldn't do that anymore. And he had to go back to the place where he belonged. And
so, but you say he always left. But I think when he appeared to be married to another wife than he really desired, then he stayed with his uncle there.
yeah,
So
not completely voluntarily.
Not no, but he could have moved as well. Then
Yeah, but then he was married to Leah, and he didn't. So that was a trap too, because he couldn't go back and he couldn't stay, and so he was forced to be a shepherd. So life overcame him, and all he could do is just come up with an answer. So that's really touching, right? He moved to find freedom, and what he found in that freedom was a complete jail sentence to a certain degree, because he had this horrible uncle who tricked him to marry the wrong woman, who tricked him once he served the sentence of 7 years. So his uncle said, you can have this wife if you stay here for 7 years. So he stayed for 7 years, and then he got the wrong sister. And then he was like, what? And he said, you can have both of these girls if you stay 7 more years. So he stayed 7 more years, and then there was another trick. And then he had to stay 21 years. So there was a constant betrayal and a fate that made him need to do this. And we can all relate to this, right? Every time we think we're almost there, something else shows up. And then when we think we're almost there, something else shows up. And then at a certain point, he decided, okay, you know what? I'm just going back into my freedom, realizing on the way back towards his freedom that his brother was still going to kill him. And what I find so touching in the story is that how can we face ourselves in the midst of that? Because that's the point. Missing the point is constantly trying to work our way towards somebody else sentencing the meaning of our life.
yeah, so I guess we're heading for things we think that will make us free or happy or whatever, enlightened or whatever. But then it appears that wasn't the thing that would really make us.
Or we can't have it yet. Or there is another task that we need to perform before we're really there.
Yeah, but then maybe we're not heading for the right thing,
No.
or
No.
looking on the wrong place for.
We're trying to escape life. And what I find touching in the story of Jacob is that in that night where he's wrestling with God, what I believe is he's wrestling with his internal conscience.
Yeah.
And he is wrestling with all the demons that he is trying to rid himself of. And he is thinking, okay, I did what I did. It is, can I forgive myself? Probably that's what happened in that night, right? Can I look at myself in the mirror and know that I am loved? And can I love my brother? His brother wasn't a nice guy either, right? Can I love my brother for who he is? And can I love myself despite of what I did? And can I reconcile even if my brother might not forgive me? Because he didn't know that yet. So just to finish the story, then he rides on and he meets his brother, and his brother doesn't kill him but hug him. But sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Sometimes the other person won't forgive us. Can we know that we are loved without needing the proof? Can we love ourselves even if the other person completely hated us? We were working with a client last week, and it was extremely touching because there were things in his marriage that went wrong, and he decided at a certain point to choose a path that was his path, but that meant that he was hurting another person. And the question isn't, can I be the person who never hurts somebody else? The question is, can I love myself even if I am hurting somebody? Can I look at myself in the mirror saying, yes, you did that, and I love you, all of you, all the 100% of you, and not just 99.9%. And I think the point of life is, can we pour, so even if there is a life and death situation and you need to work hard and there is a lot of pressure on things, which very often really is the case, and maybe in this Western society it might not be as harsh as we feel it, but sometimes it really feels like this needs to happen, and it needs to happen now. And maybe that it can be very true to certain degrees.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, can we be present in it? And can we pour our love and devotion in the situation? And can we ask God to join us in the situation instead of fight our way past? It's almost, so for me from the outside, it looks like you're kind of saying, okay, God, I'm going to put you on pause because I need to fix this and then I'll come back. It's like...
So, but then what I'm thinking is that it might feel like it's costing attention and energy to be connected with another source, even if you think it's just your own love, your self-love.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you call it God or love, but isn't it costing a lot more to switch it off?
I guess so, but I think we have the belief that or maybe the experience, because we're not really trained to be that way.
We're trained with Sinterklaas. We're trained with a testing God who is constantly about to throw us in hell if we're not on our best behavior. Well, that's the Christian God anyway. It's not the God I grew up with.
No, but even if it's not that black and white, it's we're most of us, I think, if we even have a purpose like trying to love ourselves fully 100%, even then it's not really the thing we are really experience it a lot in daily life for the most of us, I guess. And then it takes an effort to get there. It needs attention. And if we don't do it in normal situations where there's no hurry, where there's no deadline, where there's no stress, if we don't train ourselves to be in this position, then it takes an extra effort in other situations where there is stress.
We've been trained that self-care is going to the spa so that we can perform the day better the day after. We've been
Holidays,
trained. Yeah. We've been trained that a holiday is a break from work, whereas I love the word vacation. It comes from Latin, and it comes from vacare Deo, which means so much as hanging out with God. It means it really means making yourself free for God. It means emptying yourself of all the stress of life so that God can move through you freely again.
But if you put it in that way, then it would mean that you make yourself free. So you should get rid of all your stressful work and deadlines. And
Absolutely.
So then it's a logical thing that you can do it together. But I think you mean that even if you're in a stressful situation, you don't have to abandon this God or self-love or.
Well, I introduced something, and a teacher of mine, he took it on, and he asked me permission. It was beautiful. I think it was 30 years ago or something like that. And I gave myself 5-minute vacations during the day. 5-minute vacations. And I was in this seminar, and this teacher, he said, "Oh, you did really well." And I said, "Oh, so now I get 5 minutes vacation." And he said, "What?" And I said, "Now I get to hang out with God for 5 minutes." And he said, "That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." And while I think I trained with him for 5 or 6 years, and every time he came back to that, and he said, "You're giving yourself constantly 5 minutes of vacation." And that's beautiful, because most people are kind of collecting the right to be in life and then all putting it on the 2 weeks that they have in summer, and then they will relax, and then they are kind of like fighting at life again. And that is where I started to realize, and I'm kind of spreading that out through the day. That's where I realized, why don't I spread that out in every moment? Because I was realizing, from my perspective, that I was doing the same thing. I was taking a 5-minute holiday and then going back to tightening up and working, and then taking a 5-minute holiday. And I thought, that's not very clever. Let's just see if I can bring God into all of it. I didn't talk about that.
And then you're constantly on vacation.
Yes.
While you work.
Well, yes, and life gets to be a lot more fun. Even the hard things, it's okay if there's hard things. That's fine. Life can be extremely hard, and I'm not sure if a lot of people will say, but life is meant to be happy, or we're meant to be happy, or we have a right to an easy life. I'm not sure that's true, because I think if that were true, we would see different things around us. Because we're one of the richest countries in the world, and yet people are struggling. So apparently, becoming rich or successful is not going to make us happy, because if it would, we would see different things.
Yeah, but it's work hard, tighten you up, and then there's a reward afterwards. And I think this is
yes.
And the afterwards can go further and further from you. So I'm not there yet, so I have to work a little bit more or harder or different, and then seeking for other possibilities to get filthy rich, and then.
Yeah, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with money. I love money. It's just, can we allow ourselves to be in the joy of life? Isn't dependent on anything other than us being present, allowing joy. And we don't need money to allow joy. Maybe money can give us different experiences, But if I look at I'm looking outside right now and I'm seeing the rain clouds and the trees moving one thing that is one of the most joyous things to me is dancing in the rain. And it has always been from very young age. When I was 3, I would be dancing in the street in front of our house in the United States, and just feeling the rain on my skin, or the sun, or whatever makes you just coming to life. That is extreme joy. And if I go back to the moments where I felt joy, it very rarely had to do with a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm not saying money is bad. I'm just saying that joy is more of connecting to a higher source and being present with that in the moment.
Yeah, there's not needed an opposite to. So earning money shouldn't be the opposite of having joy.
Absolutely not. No, we can do both.
Or just a reward. It's so joy as a reward of working hard.
Joy is not a reward of money. It's not a reward of success. It's not a reward of working hard. Joy is joy and money is money. They have nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing. To the point that I believe that if we allow ourselves to be in complete joy, it's going to be a lot easier to earn a lot of money, because people will want to be around you.
Yeah.
And they will want to spend time with you, and they would happily pay. If you are in joy all the time, people want that.
Yeah. Yeah, and now we're talking about joy, but I think it's not only joy, because some people are not very easy to experience joy a lot, because things that happened to them, or they didn't see how they could feel joy, because there are other emotions a lot. But I think even if it's not joy but other emotions, it could feel more lively than just trying to ignore everything in your life.
Well, what's really beautiful in what you're saying now is that a lot of us will only want the joy part, but our emotions don't work that way. If we look at our emotional centers, and at trauma for that matter, it's kind of like an on-off switch. So either we feel and then we feel everything, or we don't feel. And then, so there's a filter, but the filter isn't able to filter only joy. It is feeling or not feeling. And if we allow ourselves to feel, we will also feel sadness and anger, and we will just feel a lot more. Now, if we're constantly trying to only filter the joy part there, we're fucked. Because that doesn't exist.
No, if there's no joy in you and you try to be joyful, it's not really helping you, and it's
then it's a
putting
concept.
It's another kind of stress, that things aren't that you wanted to be them, and then.
Well, then even it becomes a concept like you just described around God, right? It's a kind of a cognitive concept of God. And then it's, well, I should be grateful, so apparently I'm grateful, so I have everything, so I must be happy. Instead of really feeling the happiness flowing through your system.
It's like some people have a kind of positivity attitude, but a very self... how do you say this? Opgelegd.
Oh, they place it on themselves.
So that
I must be positive.
I must be positive, and I only see the positive in everything, and that's artificial as well. So
artificial positivity.
Yeah, it's not really. Yeah, you can. And sometimes it works. It's not that it's not wrong in a way, but.
It's still not feeling happiness. It's still not allowing life to flow through you in a bigger way.
It's suppressing all the emotions that you don't want to feel.
Exactly. So that is, again, trying to create a filter around happiness or joy or whatever you want to call it. It's kind of like those feelings are acceptable, the other feelings are not.
Yeah.
I was talking to a few clients past week, and with all of them, I ran into something extremely interesting because we were talking about feeling and about triggers, and they said, yes, but I am okay with feeling everything, but the other people are not. So then how do I deal with people who are triggered by me and feeling things? And I said, well, you just love them. Why is it a bad thing that somebody is triggered by you? They said, oh, because then they blame me. And I said, well, that's okay. Just say, I see how you feel. Why are you making yourself wrong in that situation? And that's so interesting because they said, actually all three of them said, well, I am okay feeling angry, but when I love myself and I am somewhere and my being triggers the other person to anger, then I feel that I did something wrong, and then there is a kind of a weird kind of battle. And I said, just don't fight.
But that's the same as we talked about earlier,
Yes.
about the Sinterklaas
Exactly.
kind of feeling that you are to
Yes.
blame for things,
Yes.
Even if you don't know what you did.
And I said, isn't it just okay that somebody blames you? Can you just love you, knowing that you did or didn't do things? And if it was your fault, just say, I'm sorry. And if it wasn't your fault, then just know that for yourself. Can't that just be enough? Is it okay if somebody hates you, doesn't like you? Because when you were 3, you probably couldn't leave the room. But when you're 50, you can leave the room, or you can just say, I know who I am. I don't need the other person to see me in order to know who I am. And that's extremely lonely.
But I think like we are all conditioned in certain ways. So it's beautiful that they see that this is happening, and they're not there yet that they can feel completely okay with it when someone is blaming them, or you or me, but I think this is part of unconditioned.
It is. This is taking away the conditions. The interesting thing is that this happens typically. Well, it happened last week, so I'm not sure if this is typical for everyone. But this shows up when we are doing a lot of personal development. Well, these people are, and we are becoming more okay with who we are, and then we are showing up more truthfully to ourselves, and then the other person might not necessarily like that, or they might be different, or that might not be their worldview. Now, the interesting thing is that if I show up with my voice and somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. I'm not for everyone. And that's an easy concept-wise. But now you enter a room with people that you used to be all right with, and now you're showing up differently, and your whole system is trained to make them feel good because we all need to be mushy and belonging together. And now you're behaving differently, and can you be okay with that? And I think when we talk about missing the point, I think the point of life is to celebrate differences. And I think all of us agree on that. It's beautiful that we have a whole variety of different people, which is beautiful until the other person is inconvenient to us.
Yeah, and the creepy thing about it is when you believe that you should be okay with all of it, but you aren't yet.
Yes.
Then it's hurtful, because then you hope that you can have everything, but if it isn't,
yeah,
and that's also like the positive thinker.
That's the same thing like the positive thinker. Yeah.
I'm okay with everything, but
maybe you're not.
But I think it's a long journey to become okay with everything. In
Well-
everyday life, I have so many situations where I'm not okay with all that's around me, all kind of behaviors or all the differences, and then I have to be very aware. Okay, here's just one more thing that I'm not okay with yet. So, or it's my own behavior, and then I'm triggering people, or someone else is behaving in a way that I think, oh, you shouldn't do this in this situation.
But life shouldn't
Yeah.
even be a trigger-free zone.
No.
Because ultimately it is in the allowing other people to trigger us and also allowing ourselves to be the trigger for other people, it is that we uncover who we are. I have a beautiful example of this. So I'm studying theology, and I did not go to church until I was 50. So I don't have a background in Christianity. I don't have a clue what people do in church and why and how, and I'm kind of catching up. But I wasn't raised in that faith. And now I am in a school where everybody, or in a university where everybody is being raised in some form of Christianity, except me. And I seriously want to understand certain things, but I look at it through a Jewish lens from a very different way of my own faith. So I will read a text and think, what does it even say? And then it's so interesting because I was talking about this with a professor. One of the things that happens then is that I have questions. I'm like, why do we interpret this text this way? How is this? I can't add it up. Why do we say this and believe this and the text says this? What's going on here? I don't want to be a rebel. I don't want to blow it up. I want to understand it. What's the logic here? And it is so interesting because I am seriously there to try to understand. I'm not trying to be opposed. But I can feel that even in my asking questions, a lot of people will be like, just stop asking the question and just behave. Just see that it's written there that way. It has been there for 2,000 years. There must be a reason. Just take it. And I was not raised to just take it. That's the good thing about my childhood. I was raised in a way to ask questions until you seriously can understand something. And I want to understand all sides. And I was talking about this with a professor, actually with two of them. And both of them said, it is incredibly important that we have students like you in this university. Not everybody's going to understand it. Not everybody's going to like it. Not everybody's going to agree with you or want you to ask these questions. Please never stop. We need you more than you need us. Two of them said that to me. And that is incredibly good thing to hear sometimes, because otherwise you can easily feel like, okay, I'm going to shut up now. I'm not going to ask all these things because I'm just blowing up every tutorial with my weird questions. And I don't want to be difficult. I just want to understand. But if professors don't tell you, we need this, even though we might never tell you, then you might silence yourself. And I believe, now this is in a university setting, but I believe that this is the same in society. I believe this is the same in a company. I believe this is the same in your family. Your viewpoint, your questions. And I don't believe we need to create discussions or debates or try to win an argument. I'm not trying to win an argument. I'm trying to understand their point, and I really want to. And I think that kind of curiosity is incredibly important.
Yeah, and what I see in myself, not only in myself, but in lots of people, is that there's so much to concern for and to be busy with and try to get done. We are so busy with trying to do all kinds of work and be okay with our household and the family and all the things that are on our list, that there's not that much room for space for curiosity. And I think that's really a pity. I wasn't
That is
I
missing
wasn't
the point.
curious for a long time because I was just trying to survive life and try to know how things should be done or how to behave or how could I get somewhere without being in a fight or in a discussion and so it's rather avoiding my curiosity than even embracing it.
And that is the ultimate missing the point of life.
Yeah. And now I can see it and sometimes I'm in the mode that I'm still not very curious about things because it's too much.
Well, that makes sense. We don't have to be perfect at this either.
And sometimes I'm really wondering why we aren't more curious and so
well, we can only be curious to the degree that we can allow ourselves to also be.
Yeah.
And I think that's incredibly important to realize if you're listening to this and thinking, yeah, it sounds really easy. Yeah, it sounds really easy. But if you're not allowed to be with your own opinions, and I was raised in a way that I had to have an opinion. So if I agree, that's difficult. But if you can't love yourself with your feelings and you need the other people to see you, then that's incredibly hard.
There's a funny story that comes up that when I was a child, I think I was 6 or 7 years old, and then we celebrated Sinterklaas in our sports club, and so we are in a big room together, all the children of the club, and Sinterklaas was there on stage on a chair, and then I was really, Sinterklaas is there, oh wow. And then I had to come forward and sit on the lap of Sinterklaas, and I was just, it's magic and it's frightening at the same time.
Mesmerized, yeah.
So I was everywhere, but then at a certain moment, maybe I relaxed a bit, and there was some room for curiosity because I took a look, and I don't know how, but I recognized the shoes Sinterklaas wear.
It was your dad or not?
It was my dad. So, and even I knew then that it was my dad. I believed still.
Yeah, but
afterwards.
that's beautiful.
But it was just some room for being curious, and then things happen. So as long as we are in this container of the belief that this is real and this is what's really you are dependent on if you're good or bad, or then there's no room for curiosity. And
can we stretch ourselves and question our own being? But we need to be certain about that we are allowed to live and breathe here in order to do that. Yeah.
So also the curiosity is something which isn't there and all the time, but you have to train it, or you have to train it. And you have to be open for it.
Yes, you do.
You have to be curious for your own curiosity.
Yeah, and also when you're putting a lot of pressure on something that has a deadline that needs to happen, you need to be. So I get myself in a place of, I'm really curious how I'm going to hit this, because at this point I don't know how I'm going to make it, and I know I am. So I go into a stressful situation like that, or a fight or challenge. I don't know. I don't even call it stressful. I take on challenges like that with curiosity and not with stress. I take them on like, wow, I don't know how in the world we're going to make this. Let's see. And I go there with curiosity. And for some reason, then my body works on less sleep and I get ideas out of nowhere. And if I feel like I need to go for a walk or have a dance, I will, because I can feel in every cell and fiber of my body that if I am not present, I can't be curious and I can't see the outcome.
So while you're under pressure, you take the vacation.
Yes. Yes. Now the question is, can I have vacation when there's no pressure?
Yeah.
It's an entirely different story. Let's talk about that next week. Okay. Guys, if you've been listening to this and you heard anything that's interesting to you, or you feel like, yeah, that sounds easy, but it's not that easy, you don't understand, then I highly invite you to take our quiz that is around secret self-betrayal. That will show you how this might be rooted in childhood trauma. You can find that on sabotagerelief.com. If you have any questions, just write us a message or an email, tag friends, share this podcast, and we can't wait to be back next week. Bye.
Bye.